Then why don't we call the meeting to order and get started? Maybe Michael, John. We know that John won't be joining this evening. So welcome everybody to Finance Committee meeting of November 29th, 2021. In attendance are members Todd Dargy, Mike Bennett, Cheryl Zarella-Burke, and myself, Tom Connolly. Also in attendance, Linda Cole, Darlene Regan, Chief Chavez, and Cesar is our producer for the evening, apparently. So great, thank you. First order of business would be, could I entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the last Finance Committee meeting of 11/15?
Motion to accept.
Second?
Second.
Thanks. Okay, a roll call vote. Mike Bennett?
Yes.
Cheryl Zarella-Burke?
Yes.
Todd Dargy?
Yes.
Mike O'Brien?
Yes.
Timing is everything.
That is.
Myself, Tom Connolly, motion passed. So the minutes of 11:15 are accepted. Thank you all.
Yep.
Next order of business. Linda, do we have any line item transfers or reserve fund transfers?
We do not have any tonight.
Okay. I think on the agenda this evening, we had Chief Chavez just to give us a discussion on police matrons. Tomorrow evening, we will have a joint session of finance and the Board of Selectmen, which would constitute wage and personnel. So I don't think we make any decisions tonight, but we'd love to hear what you're proposing, Chief.
Well, so we'll start from the beginning. First of all, I wasn't the one that proposed this change. I believe Charlie did. I'm not sure where it came from. I really didn't have any discussion with them. So I'm a little confused because I have two proposals with two different amounts of wages. One is the $16.99. The other is $18.32. The current wage that we pay our matrons is $18.32. So I guess if you guys have some questions, maybe I can answer some questions. Again, I wasn't the one that brought this forward.
Understood. Linda, do you have any additional background? Maybe we're missing something just from Charlie's departure. I know we're going to have some of these choppy discussions.
Yep. So Chief Chavez is right. Charlie is the one who put it in as a tickler for all of you to possibly have it come up for the January public meeting that FinCom and the Board of Selectmen will hold to discuss anything that's going to be wage related for the annual town meeting. And I know last week he was saying that his primary concern was that we set one flat rate for the matrons because they're all doing presumably the same job, although we know each individual case would be slightly different depending on the person there. But he wanted to make sure that there was just one flat rate set. Obviously, we know that I think Sandy also discussed last week, we know that there'd be a situation with the police administrative assistant who already works 40 hours. So if she was doing it, it would be overtime and she would have to be paid at that rate. That's understandable. But aside from that, he wanted to see if you all could work with the chief to figure out what a reasonable rate was and then set it as one flat rate for anybody doing matron duties so that everybody was getting paid the same and you weren't paying multiple people different rates and for doing the same job.
So it sounds like Chief Chavez's understanding, though, is that they're all being paid $18.32. Is that correct? Or do we have a different rate depending on people who are doing this as a co-job? All
right. So we have 3 people that are currently assigned to matrons that are already employed by the town. The Amanda, which is the RACO, my administrative assistant, and Susan Lawless. All right. So when they work matron duties, Sue and Tony would get their overtime rate because they're over the 40 hours. Amanda gets her rate of pay, which is $23.15. The other 2 ladies get the $18.32 that's already set. So it's never really been an issue. And I don't have a problem with setting a rate. I did reach out to the other towns, and again, same old story. We're the lowest.
Right.
It ranges from $20, which is what we would be paying if we can't get one of our matrons to come in, and we have to bring somebody in from the Plymouth County Sheriff's Office. To, for example, Kingston, their dispatchers double as their matrons.
Mhm.
So all their dispatchers, all the dispatchers, when they work matron duties, get their dispatcher pay, which is like $44. So that's not even in the ballpark.
Right.
So the only issue that I have where we're setting, like let's say we set the rate at $20, all right, would be that someone that's employed by the town, such as Amanda, or for example, if Linda wanted some extra money, that if she took that matron's position, she should be paid what she's making now, on overtime, because the duties of an ACO or any other, position are a lot different than the matron duties. Matron duties are more dangerous. You're subjected to close contact with prisoners. They're not very pleasant. Most of the time they're drunk. So it's not a very pleasant assignment. And again, like any other positions we've been talking about before, we're not having a lot of applicants for these positions.
That's true.
We lost two matrons last year, and we were able to get Amanda on board to go through the training. So right now, we're at 5. We probably the last year maybe utilized matrons maybe at the high range, maybe 6 times throughout the year. So it's up to, it'd be up to the committee. I mean, I wouldn't, there's other things more important that we should be looking at than the matron pay. It's $18.32. It's, again, it's on the low ball, for example, like, so Lakeville, their step 1 matrons are $17.37. And they go all the way up to $20.33 for fifth step. Carver is $25 flat rate. Rochester is $22. Middleborough is $25. Kingston I already mentioned, and Hanson is $22 on the top step, $15 at the beginning step on step 1. That's kind of just the general towns in the area.
Sure, and generally we're on the low end of competitive practice in each of those cases.
Right.
And so I think,
Linda, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say, and so Charlie did, I believe, acknowledge that also. I know we did last week, along with Sandy, that we probably are on the lower side. And so maybe the answer is that we should be moving that rate up, as long as we're setting it as one rate for everybody, other than those obviously that work over the 40 hours, because that we can't help. And we should be paying them at overtime, in fact. But they did both comment on that fact that the figure we have is probably low, and you might want to raise that and just set one higher flat rate that fits kind of into a range. I think that's what they had wanted to know from the chief, if he had sort of an idea on the range that you could put somebody up at that one rate.
Okay, so when we take up all of the positions after we set kind of budget expectations and things tomorrow, and we take a competitive look at all of the positions, it sounds like, if I play this back to you, Chief, it makes sense to you that people who are doing this in addition to their full-time job should not suffer a pay reduction for doing these activities, and we should have a core rate for people for whom this is their only job. Is that accurate? So I just wanted to know if that's Chief's position.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Linda, you wanted to add?
Yeah, I would just caution on that from my other standpoint as assistant treasurer. We do pay different rates to people doing 2 different jobs. I'll use myself as an example, just because I'm here. I get obviously paid significantly less to do this job than I get paid to do my other job.
Right.
we definitely want to pay the people that are working 40 hours or more their overtime rate, because that's the law and we should do that. It's just, I don't want to say that you want to choose somebody that's their only job. If they're not working 40, we still
Understood.
would want to pay them just the same flat rate we're paying everybody.
Right. And yeah, and so, I mean, this would have to be a policy matter that would cover all side-by-side jobs. So anyone that's working multiple jobs, it's either a flat rate for all, or it is as it is right now, where we have different practice for paying one versus the other. So I'd be hard, but we should set a competitive rate for police matrons. But it sounds like, to be consistent with what we do with all our other employees, that should be the rate that you are paid for that job, even if you are employed by the town in some other capacity, like you, Linda. That's our current policy, right?
Right, correct. That is the current policy. You accept the job knowing that you'll be paid at a lower rate,
Yeah.
Okay.
obviously. I don't think we have
Or
anybody.
at a different rate.
Yes, I was going to say,
Yeah.
right. I don't think we have anybody that would be in that situation at the moment that's a matron, other than the people that are already working overtime and their own situation.
Yeah, Linda, the only one that would be affected, and I think Charlie in his proposal says that they'd be grandfathered, would be Amanda, because her current rate, I believe, for doing ACO, and I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's $23.15, which is the same rate that she gets for doing the ACO, because she doesn't get overtime. She's only an 18-hour a week employee. So she's never going to get
So
the
you'd have
overtime.
to
So yeah,
correct. So the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom would then have to decide if they're
Right.
comfortable paying that rate, or that she already makes to everybody, or they want to set if it was the case, a lower rate, and then Amanda would just have to understand that if
Right.
she worked in that position, she'd make the lower
Yeah.
rate, which you'll all have to determine
Yeah,
that.
I would not want to be found to be manipulating base rates on the expectations of where it fits overtime and FLSA compliance. So I'd want to get sort of counsel to weigh in on a view if we were going to take that route. Any other questions for Chief from the committee? There's no action tonight, but I think helping us understand this when we go into the wage and personnel starting tomorrow would be important. Anyone else?
The only point that I have is they're two separate jobs.
Yeah.
They're a matron in addition to another position. So the expectation of overtime shouldn't be there. It's not overtime of their regular position.
No, actually, Mike, it applies under FLSA. It applies to the federal employee tax ID.
Mhm.
So if you work 40 hours for one FEIN, you are eligible for overtime regardless of the capacity that you work in.
I worked for the state for quite a while. And
Yeah,
if I
me
took an
too.
additional position, I got whatever that position was paid at.
Exactly.
I didn't get an overtime pay.
No.
I got a separate pay scale for that position.
Okay, let's get advice, because I know in the private sector, that's a no. But I don't want to.
And in the state, it was considered a conflict of interest.
Interest. Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
and actually we have
It is a
that in our own bylaws too. That's the other
Right.
sort of question that we should raise
Yeah.
about these multiple jobs, is that very clearly, for those of you that have gone through Caesar's ethics program in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I hope you all have. That was a big part of it, around multiple roles and
Right.
conflicts of interest.
yeah, and
Other-
we actually,
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Chief.
So I just, in regards to the conflicts, we did request a decision from the State Ethics Commission on the position with Susan, because at the time she was a COA director, and obviously her overtime rate would be significantly higher than anybody else, and they said she was okay to do that. So, but that's
To do the job or to get paid the overtime?
to get paid the overtime.
Really?
Okay.
I can look through my emails and see if I can get that. Well, actually, Susan might even have it as well, because she had to request it, because it was it pertained to her.
Okay. We should run this down. Michael, thanks for pointing it out, because it
you're
sounds
welcome.
like it's different from private sector.
Yeah.
Okay. So no action tonight, but it's good data for when we start doing this in earnest tomorrow. I know that Darlene wants to speak on a wage matter, but it's not on the agenda. So maybe we save that for public participation in a second. Any correspondence this evening, Linda, that we should cover?
We actually did not have any.
Okay. Then,
Everybody took a holiday break.
Darlene, you wanted to bring something to our attention. Could you take the floor?
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me on this evening. Couple of issues. I went to address hiring a receptionist / transportation coordinator. I thought that would be an easy thing to do. However, when I did look at the previous person's records, I find discrepancies in terms of there was, first and foremost, there was no job description with a dual description job itself, transportation / receptionist. There was a receptionist position job description and no transportation coordinator position, unless I missed something, but the coordinators or the positions that were sent to me did not indicate anything having to do with transportation.
Job documentation is never perfect. Ever.
Transportation coordinator.
Right.
Yeah.
Darlene is correct. The position, the title of job transportation coordinator did not exist prior to the hiring of the last person who is now not there. It was only about a year and a half ago. They just kind of renamed the receptionist transportation coordinator.
So what job do you want to hire for, Darlene? Is it a combined job?
So, well, that's my question. Is it good to have a dual job in that particular? First and foremost, receptionist is totally like something that I could actually utilize Title V monies in terms of having it out of our, range of wages. So therefore I can access, I'd rather have the receptionist position as a Title V position that is accessing other funds to fund that position itself. So we're back to just a transportation coordinator. So in the descriptions of transportation coordinators in comparison to other COAs, Situate in particular, they have their grade level is a 6. Grade level 6, and they start them at $20.
That's competitive practice?
Well, that's just Situate. Now I can go, it's not a very common position in terms of just a transportation coordinator. So it was difficult to find that throughout the COA.
The reason for you to want to isolate on that is that you can get Title V funding for that.
For just the receptionist, for the
receptionist.
For receptionist, yeah. So I want to cut that out of the. First and foremost, I sent some information along just to show that there was the person applying for the position applied for applied for a receptionist position. Then at the time of the offering of the letter, the integration of that transportation coordinator's title became a part of that receptionist. So it was interesting how all of a sudden, it just became a part of that welcome letter. So I was a little kind of confused as to and I went back and looked at some more literature on that, and that was completed in 2019. So then if you see, it went along talking about the step levels and the confusion on that. And then it went from the offering letter, as you can see, went from a grade 4, but that was back in 2018, but it was a grade 4. But then the actual, when the person went for her review, grade 2. So I was like, okay, so where does this go? I mean, we have a person that actually applied for a receptionist position, and then all of a sudden now is doing a transportation coordinator as well, but then went from a 4 to a 2. And so I didn't know where to start with this one, except for the fact that I know what I need here as a person to fulfill the responsibilities as a transportation coordinator, and decision whether or not they be grade 2 or a decision whether they be a grade, 4. So I'm a little, that's the only job description I have.
And where do transportation coordinator responsibilities lie then, once you just have a receptionist?
Yes. So this receptionist is going to be a whole different, not, it's just going to be something separate for that. We don't need a person at 40 hours a week
No.
doing transportation and then receptionist. That is not a full-time position. Okay. So then I'd like to separate that receptionist position out and then use that as a 19.5 hour position with Title V money. Okay, so not even be part of our wage and personnel. Then make the transportation coordinator's position a real true, employee, Halifax employee position, and then potentially in comparison what other towns, this other town I found it. Let me see if I can share this screen.
Well, we'll be doing competitive practice for all of the roles. So, I mean, we're welcome.
Yeah.
We're welcome to show us what you have. But might I ask, do we have a sufficient, is that a full-time job, a part-time job?
The transportation coordinator's position with the duties that I actually incorporated will be full-time in terms of policies in regard to, drawing that transportation policy into really what 21st century is, because I've reviewed the policies, the transportation policy, there's inconsistencies in that as well. So I need somebody that's spot on, that understands transportation industry and that actually can really redefine that policy, the policy as it stands now. That's one thing. So, and also the making sure that everybody's up to par on their training. The GATRA, the MATAP training and all that, not GATRA, I'm sorry, but the MATAP training, making certain that each of the drivers are up to date on that, making sure that the vans are in good shape, following up on all the vehicle inspections. So there's going to be a lot more to that position. And, also redesigning the fact of, taking calls. As we get busier, we are going to do more medical calls, and I'll be doing some training with regard to Mass Health PT1s and understanding how that could actually be revamped in terms of how we take in our calls as medical transporters.
So it sounds like it's clearly a job that you need to write a new job description for.
Which I've started. I did, and I'll have it tomorrow. Would you like a copy?
Just send it to Linda, and we'll combine it with with all of the others that we're trying to review now.
Perfect. Yeah.
And it sounds like we need a clean receptionist job description.
Yes. Yeah. So that would be something that I'll have to work on too. The other thing too, I'm looking to do marketing media person, perhaps maybe somebody with a newsletter. We do have a newsletter description, but a market media person, but we'll talk about that another time.
Okay.
But I think we just need to get this transportation person on board ASAP.
Okay.
Sorry, just going to interject again from the treasurer's standpoint. You can confirm this with the interim town administrator or Sandy, but I believe in order to create a new position, you have to have that approved by town meeting. You won't be able to just create that position and have them start,
Right.
a week or two from now. It would have to wait until next May for a brand new position.
Oh, boy.
Also,
So, yeah,
Darlene,
my presumption was you get the documentation in order so that we can take it to AGM.
Also, Darlene, any of the things that you were just showing on the screen, I don't know if that was just you showing them or you asked Caesar, or I'm not
Caesar.
sure what the...
It was Caesar.
None of that was passed along to me. So if you could, you need to present that to us first so that we can add it to the minutes. So if you can send that over to me, that'd be great.
Okay. Yes. So that's, pretty much it, just to get that transportation coordinator's position posted. So that's what I'm.
So first is get the job description, and then sadly is to get it approved in May.
Well, that's the other position. Yeah. The transportation coordinator's position, though, should be approved soon, like tomorrow.
Is that a new role?
No, no, it never was. It was never defined, but the person that was in the other position had the job.
Well, you're asking for a new FTE. Do we have an incumbent in the reception job now?
The reception job, Well,
You have a
no,
reception slash coordinator now?
we did. She left about 2 months ago. Mhm.
So you have
We
one
did.
FTE
Correct.
that you can fill. Linda, can that be modified to reflect that it
I
is
think-
less reception and more transportation coordinator?
You know what? I would definitely ask for an opinion on this one because you're on a slippery slope here where you're
Yeah.
talking about making it two separate positions now. So one of them is definitely a brand new position and that
Right.
will definitely have to go through town meeting. How you're choosing to split those out, which one you're calling the new one and the old one.
Well, the
We'll get
transportation coordinator's position was never defined, but then it was a part of that person's job description.
And it was defined if it was part of their job description.
Right, so there was never an actual, like the receptionist does exist. So that shouldn't have to be redefined, the receptionist position. Then there was never a position though for the transportation coordinator.
Right.
However, they actually hired someone to do transportation coordinator / receptionist.
Got it.
And
So
they
you have
held that position for over a year.
you have one FTE. So whether that is a receptionist or a transportation coordinator, we'd have to get an opinion on whether you can modify the role, but you clearly want to add to your staff, and our hands are tied until annual town meeting to get that that new position approved.
Tom, Gordon has his hand raised.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry, I couldn't see. Who's got their hand raised? I don't see one.
Gordon.
Oh, Gordon, please. Weigh in here. Help.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that the easiest thing to do would be to fill the position that's been doing both roles and transition at the annual town meeting the duties of the receptionist. Because I think from talking with Darlene about this, she does need this coordinator position, and it seems like that is the larger part of the role that she needs to move forward. So I think if you call this the coordinator / receptionist, transition the duties to a new receptionist, and redefine in wage and personnel bylaw those two positions at the annual town meeting, I think we'd have a smooth transition as of July 1st.
Because the more important role to Darlene is the transportation. The more complex role is the transportation coordinator role. If we can fill that one under the current billet, even though it has receptionist in the job title, then we could transition that person to the travel coordinator role. If I'm playing this back correctly, Gordon, to the transportation coordinator role, and then what you're asking for is a new FTE, a 19.5-hour role as a receptionist for COA.
Right. So logistically, that's the most logical way to approach it. However, the issue is this too, to bring it up, and I hate to bring this up because I need this tomorrow. I needed it yesterday with regard to this position being accepted, and that is if we go forward with the dual position as it is, receptionist / transportation coordinator, and there is no actual job description written, is that a problem?
Yes, there needs to be one written.
Right. So does that have to go through approval in May?
It does.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
technically this transportation / dual position was created over a year and a half. This person had this job, but there was actually no job description for it. Going forward, I just need to understand. So we just basically, as it stands now, I could be just hiring a receptionist and not a transportation coordinator. So
Gordon, are we bound by the fact that job documentation wasn't really done properly a year and a half ago when they hybridized the job?
I don't
Go ahead.
I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer to that other than, maybe if we go back through the wage and personnel public hearings the last 2 years. Maybe it was raised there. Maybe it was voted. I don't know. I'm on the website now trying to look it up. Linda,
Darlene, are the duties of what you would consider the duties of the transportation coordinator listed anywhere in the job description of the receptionist? I guess is one way.
Yes, I did look at that. Yeah, I didn't, including program activities, I didn't see anything. It's kind of ambiguous, some of the language, so I can interpret it as potentially meaning
Tracks
towards some.
mileage.
Reception is responsible for providing.
Well, you do have logs requests for transportation and maintains activity
Not limited.
statistics. So you might be able to get the request for transportations in there as a transportation coordinator.
Mhm.
So call it a receptionist position, but then, but then having them coordinate or actually record the calls as they come in terms of, yeah, because it says telephone calls and responding to patron complaints. That's not.
Yeah, that's not the same.
Nope, it's not the same as right. So it's schedule and confirms, well, so printing forms, card, tracks mileage. Well, that's like you had said, Linda, maybe it's kind of interesting how this was written. Because when you think about it, it's like tracks some mileage. Okay, so maybe a receptionist position, but taking calls to making, it's administratively, if a call comes in, they have to make the schedule as they go in, or they come up with coordinating the rides themselves. So if 5 people call for a ride that day, there is a coordination of understanding transportation, that you can't take someone to a medical appointment into Boston, but then take somebody else, that same driver, then coordinate it so that they be in Halifax to take people shopping. So
That's a competency issue, right? But I mean, if that's what you define as part of the receptionist responsibilities, then it is indeed their responsibilities. That's what I'm seeing here. I don't think we should be trying to do this contemporaneously off a shared screen. I mean, I think if we can get these materials to everyone, and then we can take it up in good order.
I put a copy of the PDF in the chat before it was initially presented. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I got it.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom.
Yes, Gordon.
Gordon, on August 7th, 2018, the job posting for COA receptionist and transportation coordinator was received by the Wage and Personnel Board. So the position's been combined, I would say, since 2018. And if she wants to fill the position and have the duties adjusted, I think we should do that at the annual town meeting.
Right.
Yeah. But she does have a, so Darlene, it sounds like you do have a job that you can post that is a hybridized one that would then be transitioned, as Gordon says, at the annual town meeting in May.
Okay, so post the job itself then as the receptionist position?
No, I think what we're saying is, if in wage and personnel, what Gordon was just referring to, the hybrid job was approved there. So I think you can use that job description, the one that was posted as a consequence of that presentation to the Wage and Personnel Committee, and then as you're screening candidates, you want someone who has those higher order skill sets that you were talking about around regulation, scheduling, maintenance, driver training, all of that.
Right.
But I think the job descriptions, it's not perfect, but it'll get you there, it sounds like.
Okay. Okay, so I'll have to get a copy of that job description because I don't have, I mean, you know, that particular one that they posted back
Yeah.
in 2018, I don't have a record of it.
Yeah. Linda and I, or Gordon, sounds like Gordon's already got it, so maybe we can just get that
Okay.
over to you.
Well, we can
Okay.
double check it, but I think it's the one she's looking at, and they just titled it
Right.
receptionist transportation
Yeah.
person in
Exactly.
2018. Because it
Oh,
does
really?
say in that job description that they're doing mileage, that they're taking calls and scheduling appointments.
They just changed the title to receptionist. Oh, okay.
Sounds
So
like, yeah.
reception transportation coordinator, I think they made it a combined title.
That was, okay. All right.
And then on December 10th, 2019, the
Mhm.
Board of Selectmen was wage and personnel request by COA for starting wage rate for new receptionist transportation coordinator. So it looks like there was a request for starting at something other than step one.
A step 4? Did you say?
Other than a step one.
Oh, other than a step 4.
I'll continue to look through this tonight.
Okay. Sorry to be a headache, but I
Yeah,
was
to
just trying
Wow.
to.
No, that's okay. And I think to Tom's point, it would be helpful. It won't help now, but for the future. Again, I know Caesar said he put it in the chat, but that doesn't really help you as the moment's going on. We're trying to get this information to the members ahead of time so they can review it before they come into the meeting. So if you have anything, just send it on over for finance to me, and I'll make sure that they get it ahead of the meeting so that they can get a chance.
Right,
to look at it.
yeah.
And post it.
Yeah, we've had a very busy week for
Yeah.
some reason. Now with the holiday party coming up on Wednesday and COVID and all this other stuff that's happening all at the same time. So I've been out straight.
Got it.
But okay, thank you. I guess
Thank you,
that's pretty
Darlene.
much it. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
You as well. Any other public participation? And committee, any other business? Oh, Gordon, yes.
Is everyone going to be available for a quorum for tomorrow night's meeting with the Board of
I
Selectmen?
think we'll have a quorum.
You
I know
do.
that John, Todd, myself, Cheryl, one of the Michaels, which one is not able to attend?
Mike O'Brien can't be there.
Mike O'Brien. Mike Bennett, you're coming?
Yes.
Good. So yes, we definitely have a quorum for tomorrow night, Gordon.
Okay, so I'm working on a spreadsheet tonight to try to send everybody the back of the envelope numbers that Charlie was talking about with you guys at the last meeting as well.
Okay.
So try to present that tomorrow. And
Okay,
not be
great.
too gloomy so Sandy doesn't kick me under the table.
Okay. Will we get it early, or will we just see it in the meeting?
I will try to get it to you by noontime.
Okay. Got it.
Gordon, that might be a great idea too. I'm sure if you've had access to it or you've seen it with Sandy to put into that shared file on the OneDrive, that might be a great place for all of you to get access to it because you'll probably use it again in the future.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any other business?
I just had a question. I don't know. Are all the finance committee members going to be virtual tomorrow, or are some of you guys going to be in person?
I know Cheryl's going to be virtual. I'm toxic, so I'm going to be virtual. Mike O'Brien, in person or virtual?
Not there.
I can't be there.
Oh, you're
tomorrow.
not. I'm sorry, Michael Bennett.
I'll be there.
Okay. Todd?
I'll be there as well.
Okay. And then we're not sure on John Smalling. I know he'll be there, but I'm not
Right.
sure.
I'll make sure there's a seat available for him. I just wanted to make sure that there was enough space. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, I would far prefer to go, but don't want to affect you guys. All right. Anything else? Okay. Motion to adjourn, please.
Calendar, Tom. Next meeting.
Oh, the calendar. Oh, so my sense is we're going to come out of tomorrow night with a fair-sized book of business for the committee. So are we good with meeting on Monday next?
I
And
believe
then
right.
maybe we should just get December, if you wouldn't mind. Let me take a quick look at the calendar so we can.
Sure. I think you already voted in one of your previous meetings in October to begin meeting every Monday.
Right.
So That's what I had discussed and set up with Caesar through the end of the year, minus the,
Holiday.
I presumed you all didn't want to meet the week that involved the Christmas holidays. So the 27th, we're not scheduled for that right now of December.
That would be great.
I think it's the
And
27th,
what
whatever
about
that
the
Monday is.
what about the 3rd? Because I know for many of you, that's the New Year holiday.
Going into January?
Yeah.
And we didn't go through January. In the other meeting,
Okay.
we just voted through it to start. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's leave it at that. So we're meeting the 6th, the 13th, and the 20th. Off on the 27th, and at one of those meetings, we'll address the January calendar. Does that work?
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right. Anything else? Sorry to have jumped the gun on calendar. Thanks, Cheryl.
No.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay. A roll call vote. Todd?
Yes.
Mike O'Brien?
Yes.
Michael Bennett?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
And myself, Tom Connolly, is a yes. So meeting is adjourned. We will see you, most of you, tomorrow night. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Good night.
No.
Night.
Okay.